What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. So, a few days ago, I did a compilation for all of the videos entitled Death of the Primarchs, and there's been quite a few Primarchs that have fallen throughout the annals of history, such as Conrad Kurz, Alfarius, let's not forget Ferrus Manus, and of course, the big one, Horus Lupercal. So we will be getting the official updated lore for Horus in just a few months when the End and the Death Volume 3 finally arrives. But before that, we've got to talk about the end of Sanguinius. Sanguinius versus Horus was a big monumental part of the Siege of Terra and how it basically leads to the Emperor fighting against Horus. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Sanguinius has always been one of my favorite Primarchs. Really awesome, really heroic, and it's hard to hate the guy, especially considering all his feats throughout the entire siege and the Horus Heresy. But to see him go down in this manner, it's pretty brutal. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and read the End and the Death Volume 2 as to how his death comes at the hand of Horus. It wasn't supposed to end like this. You, on your knees, eviscerated, gasping for breath. Him standing over you, so noble and just, his sword raised in both hands, ready to strike. Sanguinius looks down at you, over his raised shoulder. A fractional pause, space enough for a last chance. You see the pity in his gaze, the sorrow, the longing. He's still hoping for a different answer, but he won't get one. You can see his disbelief. You can see him thinking it wasn't supposed to end like this. Time's up. The pause ends, and he brings the sword down. So fast, you don't even see it coming. The perfect execution stroke. The most precise, most merciful, most important sword stroke he will ever deliver. But it will not land. Worldbreaker's haft stops and Carmine dead. The jarring shock travels back through the blade, through his arms, and through him. It jolts him backwards, even as the sparks of contact are still dancing. Astonishment blinks in his eyes. He swings again, a hastier blow. His arms like lead from the trauma of the blocking impact. Your talon fends the blade away. Now he tries a lancing thrust fueled by mounting desperation. Yet you catch his sword against the head of your maul and flip the stroke aside. That look on his face, it's gratifying. He can't believe you're on your feet. He can't understand why your wounds aren't slowing you down. He can't comprehend where your fluid speed is suddenly coming from. But it was always there. You're just not holding back anymore. You let him come at you, blow after blow, each one a death stroke, each one an exemplar of the swordsman art. Even in despair, his talent doesn't abandon him. None of them work. You bat them away as they come, with maul, then talon, then maul again. You want to give him a moment to let the despair really sink in. It wasn't supposed to end like this. That's what he thought. Well, it was never going to. You relish the challenge, but the contest is over. You can see he understands this. Besides, he has demonstrated that he isn't going to challenge his mind either. He won't bend to your will. You thought he might, but he won't. It really is such a pity, such a waste, and so ungrateful. You offered him everything, and he spurned you. He declined your gift, graceless, thankless wretch. No one does that to you. Neither of you is playing anymore. You don't think he ever was, not really, not the way you were, but there was still a sense of restraint, as though his abiding belief in you was pulling his blows in the hope that you might repent. Whatever may have been the case, he's not playing now. He's bent on killing you, for real. He wants to kill you more than he wants to save himself. He is now attacking, not defending. It appears he still thinks he's invincible, but he is not invincible, and nowhere near invulnerable. He's about to discover that the prophecy stands. The dreams were real. Your favorite brother should have heeded them. Fate is ordained, and it demands payment. Everyone pays Sanguinius, some in a moment, some for the rest of their lives. There are no loopholes, no exceptions. He thought he'd found a subclause in the logic of fate's contract that would allow him to live. The dreams told him plainly that he would die the day he faced you, but he convinced himself that this did not count as a day. It couldn't be a day, for time had ground to a halt, and thus the prophecy could not and would not be fulfilled. He used this to deny fate several times, perhaps more times than any other son, and he thinks he can do it again. Well, fate has grown tired of his provocations. It is no longer charmed by his constant clever escapes and dialectic evasions. And so are you. There is no intellectual technically to exploit here. Sanguinius is naive if he thinks that fate works that way, especially at this macrocosmic level. This is the day, the final day. Days, like brothers, come in different types, with different qualities. They do not all have to work together and run in series. A day can be alone, singular. This is your day. You have decreed its dimensions and its duration. It is a single day of days, endless and eternal, and nothing can outlast it. No matter how hard it tries. Here he comes, and carmine gleaming. He still thinks he's going to win. You dodge the blade, and you swing Worldbreaker. He evades, but you hadn't intended for the maul to hit him anyway. The swing was just to scare him into the air. He takes flight, white wings wide, a flash of gold to encircle you and strike you down from above. He thrusts his one advantage, the ability to fly, and turn into a two-dimensional fight into a three-dimensional assault. But what are his three dimensions compared to the multitude you command? He soars above you, a vertical ascent, and you reach along the eighth angle of space and grab. Your talon closes around his trailing ankle. His climb arrests with a brutal jolt. For a second, he is anchored in the air, and you bring him down, hard, swinging him by the leg like a hammer into the deck. You let time slow so you can relish every detail of this moment. You gaze down at him, and he lies on his back, full length in a crater of mashed deck plates, one wing spread wide, the other pinned and folded under him. His arms draped open, his hair a golden halo behind his head, one leg bent like a dancer's. You're still holding his other leg like a half to wield him by, and you let him go. The leg falls, heavy and straight. No more flying. You step back, and your heart is racing. The satisfaction was exhilarating. You weigh Worldbreaker in your hand, ready and waiting. How long will it take him? A minute? 2? No, much less. His eyes blink open, and he doesn't realize where he is for a moment. He doesn't know what's going on. The impact has knocked all sense from him, and he'll register the pain before anything else. A broken wing, ribs too, the ankle you swung him by. Pain will be flooding in him as he wakes. You see him wince, a convulsion of his chest and his face screwing up a grimace. He chokes, coughs blood, and it dribbles off his lips. Is he done? Surely he's done. Nobody... But you still give him credit, grudgingly. He's not giving up. He tries to roll onto his side, but the grinding pain of the broken wing stops him. He flops back and rolls the other way. He tries to rise. He makes it onto his hands and knees and gropes for his fallen sword. It's just out of reach, along with most of his broken hopes and the memories that were smashed out of him. Go on, get up. Let's see if he can. Hunched over, broken wing dragging like a limp ermine cloak behind him, he crawls. He makes no sound, not one whimper or groan of pain. That is impressive. You balance Worldbreaker at the ready. He found the sword and he clutches it tightly by the grip, breathing hard, and uses it as a support to drag himself upright. He's standing, though awkwardly, keeping his weight off of the shattered ankle. He wipes the blood from his mouth, and for a second, you want to offer him the chance to submit. He extended you the same courtesy, so it only seems fair. But this is your court, and you decide what's fair. This is your house, and you are a man of your word. You told him there would be no mercy. So there will be no mercy. He turns to look at you. You are already descending on him, bringing the maul down. Somehow he avoids it. Worldbreaker kills another section of the deck. He's swinging an carmine at your head. The Talon parries it. Sparks fly, and you sweep Worldbreaker at him, but he deflects it with a cross-body slash. You lunge to seize him by the throat. He evades the snapping talon and thrusts his blade around your guard, but you knock it away before it bites. He's got a little left, a little strength, a little speed, yet more than you expected. He deserves his fame. You exchange blows, trading 4 in rapid succession, each one parried or hooked aside. Oh, he's good. Even now, still trying, death has brought out the best in him. Maybe despite everything, he still thinks he's invincible. But you will abuse that notion out of him. You slam your lethal claws around him to crush him, but he isn't there. Slipped aside, a flash of gold, as fast as a beam of sun, evading you at the speed of light. But you move at the speed of darkness. You catch him on the backswing, your talons shearing locks of his hair and snapping his head sideways. Worldbreaker does the rest. It hits him just above the hip, folds him double, and hurls him across the court like a doll. He flies, one last time. His spinning body strikes the ornate prayer screen of your private chapel. The fretwork carved from solid stone without any trace of tool marks smashes as he goes through it. Small splinters clatter to the deck. You follow him. You walk over to the side chapel slowly. There's no reason to hurry. The bladed head of your maul is matted with blood and golden hair. You walk past the shattered screen to the entrance and look in. He has landed face down on the cool stones on the floor, his feet towards you, his head towards the altar. There are pieces of broken fretwork all over the floor around him, and his body has knocked over 3 metal stands of candles. Smoke trickles up from the fallen candles that should have gone out. You see him move. The injury you have done to him is catastrophic, and it has also torn open an old wound, the one Angron inflicted. Blood is pooling under the angel in a wide scarlet mirror. You see him shudder as he tries to lift his head. His arms spasm as he tries to raise his shoulders and chest. But there won't be a getting up this time. When he raises his head, shaking and weak, the altar is the first thing he sees. You see him recoil at the sight of it. He can't help but stare, his chest lifted on bent arms, his body trailing flat. The altar is wrought and pre-dynastic. You had it intricately inscribed with syncretic sigils, entwined figures of Concordia and Discordia, of Kronos and Kairos, the form of the Ouroboros, in the abstract convolutions of the eternal labyrinth, which has no way in and no way out. You also had it etched with certain phrases and texts that whisper of the court have told you are sacred. It has 8 wide steps like a ziggurat, with a primedion of alchemically tempered azoth at the apex. You have placed many candles and tapers on the shelves of the steps, crowded around the relics you display there. There are skulls, each one ritualistically arranged face out, so their empty orbits stare at anyone who enters. One is set centrally, in pride of place. It is the one Sanguinius sees first when he lifts his trembling head. Its gaping sockets gaze back at him. The yellowed bone of its brow is carved with a numerical X. This is where it will end. This cross here. You hear the angel murmur a single wretched gasp. Manus. It is the only sound he's uttered since you began to kill him. You stand behind him and give him a moment to appreciate the reunion and to realize what it signifies. Until we meet again. That's long enough. Who lacks now, brother, you ask. He tries to turn over and face you. You grasp him by that broken ankle and drag him out behind you. He slides backwards on his belly, hands raking and pawing at the bloody flagstones to resist. But there is nothing to grip. He leaves a long smear of blood on the floor behind him. It isn't supposed to end like this. Nevertheless, it does. It takes just a moment, though he has all the time in the world. Horus Lupercal holds all of time, stilled in one hand, and Sanguinius in the other. Sanguinius, the angel, broken beyond measure, gazes up at the soaring arcs of the Lupercal court. Even broken, he will not go quietly. Even broken, he will not make this easy. Lupercal growls. Does he relish this? Hate it? Consider it an annoyance waste of time when he has better things to do? There is no way to fathom him, for he is no longer remotely human. And Sanguinius doesn't care. He can feel the gaze of the old four on him, staring from the shadows with eyes as bleak and wicked as the one adorning his brother's breastplates. They have come to witness this and everything that will follow. They mutter close to other excitedly, and around them the numberless legions of their spawn gibber and whisper in delight. Sanguinius can feel the sheer size of them, the mass of the dark gods. He will show them the defiance of mankind to his last breath. Horus lifts him off the ground, pincered in his talon. Every fractured bone and tear in Sanguinius' body shrieks as he hangs there. Blood bursts from between his torn lips, squeezes out of his body. Worldbreaker rises in the monster's other hand. Sanguinius lashes out with his left hand, gouging desperate fingers at his brother's cheek and eyes. Horus barks in rage and drops his prey. Sanguinius falls to his knees, jarring every wound, then topples to his side. He tries to rise, trembling, weak. He wants to be on his feet when it happens. He wants to be standing when. Worldbreaker catches him before he is even back on his knees. The clubbing blow breaks his left shoulder, his ribs, his left femur. He collapses, trying not to scream from the pain, and failing. Horus starts to bludgeon him, beating him repeatedly like a disobedient dog. There is no art in this anymore. No martial skill, no patience. Worldbreaker shreds armor and flesh. It pulverizes both collarbones. It ruptures a lung. The sixth hammering impact twists Sanguinius' head around, shattering his jaw and transmitting such force that the skin on the left half of his face, from brow to chin, is flayed loose. It flutters, then drapes back like a slack mask. As he falls forward, the talon vices him again. It lifts his ruined, tattered angel into the air until he is face to face with the first found instrument of chaos. Horus squeezes slowly. He is expecting some last word, some immortal and heroic declaration to mask the end of this majestic, noble life. It ought to be something good, something appropriate. But Sanguinius is no longer capable of speech. He is drowning in his own blood. The claws close. There is a double crack of spine and neck. Horus waits. Blood drips. It's done. The talon opens with a mechanical clack. His brother's corpse so loose and mangled, it seems almost boneless. It drops to the deck. An ugly sound of impact to mark an ugly ending. Horus sighs and walks away. Things scurry forward from the shadows to nail the body up. And there you have it, guys. This was the brutal, unheroic death of the angel Sanguinius. So throughout the entire life of Sanguinius, he knew that his death was going to come at the hands of Horus. He knew that no matter what happened, he would be the final instrument to combat Horus before the Emperor himself. At this point, Horus has lost all humanity, and he's basically being used as a puppet of chaos. The four gods are basically there to make sure that the battle against the Emperor of Mankind happens, and nothing or no one can stop it. And as strong as we've seen Sanguinius be throughout his multiple battles during the Siege of Terra, such as taking on a Titan, taking on Ka-Banda, followed by Angron, and holding the gate for like days just by himself, this is what ultimately brings him down. The battle with his once best friend, Horus. So let me know your thoughts down below on how just ultimately brutal and devastating this battle was. Sanguinius seemed like he was untouchable throughout all his battles. Nothing could lay him low. He barely got any scratches. Like, there's only a real wound given to him by Angron. But I mean, that is a demon Primarch, so it would only make sense. And here we can see that Sanguinius couldn't even put a scratch on Horus. So with that being said, guys, leave me your thoughts down below, and the next death of the Primarch will be Horus at the hands of the Emperor. We just gotta wait a few more months for that. But as always, this has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.